summer, we're pulling together the best of Let's Wrap and showcasing past guests who embody good vibes for life. HPC is known for its wraparound care model. It's the employees who carry it out. One of the reasons so many employees identify with patients and their families is because they have a personal story of hemophilia in their family too. Today we hear from 3 moms who are HPC employees as they share their stories with their sons who live with hemophilia, yet demonstrate what good vibes for life mean to them. Keatris Clark and her son Sean know hemophilia. Keatris grew up with brothers challenged by the disease. It was the strength and advice of her mother that helped her with her own son's diagnosis. Today, the mother and son talk about Keatris's role at HPC, her positive outlook, and how hemophilia has shaped Sean's future plans. Keatris, I want to start with you. I know you've done a lot of work directly with patients with HPC. Your current title is Regional Hemophilia Specialist. HPC's wraparound care model is so special, and a lot of families have, various struggles, and you guys can help them with really everything.
Right. And so HPC is a specialty infusion company, and we take care of patients that have hemophilia or bleeding disorder. So we're going into the homes and we're finding we have our nurses that are trying to infuse those patients, but sometimes those patients may need resources like their light bill paid. They may need furniture. They may need beds. So we find those resources, or they may need counseling services, or they may need assistance with a letter of medical necessity to get to that doctor's office. They may need transportation. We provide the transportation, or either give them the tools to find the transportation.
I want to bring Sean into the conversation here. Sean, you're 23 years old. I know you've watched your mom, work with HPC for the past 7 years. You yourself have a bleeding disorder. And can you talk a little bit about how your mom has helped you, throughout your life, and then watching her go help others, even after she's helped you along?
Really? She does everything. So whatever she does for me, I know she's doing for her patients. And I know I know my mom's patients love her because she goes that extra mile. And she really does go for her patients.
Growing up, can you talk a little bit about, your experience living with a bleeding disorder and, how it's shaped you in the person that you are today?
It's made me a lot stronger than a lot of my friends, I can say. Like, I'm able to go through a lot of other situations and look at them differently than a lot of other people because of my bleeding disorder. Having the bleeding disorder has taught me to be more independent versus being dependent.
And I could guess that, because of your mom's experiences with you, as she's gone out working with HPC, she's been there. She knows exactly what these families are going through.
Yeah, and she went through it herself at one point. I don't know if she tells people, but she does. She has. And I know that she understands what they're going through, and she tries to help them the best that she can. And it's just her.
And Keatris, as you sit beside your son, what are you most proud of him as the way he's grown up and dealt with a very difficult situation, but as he talks about just being a stronger person for it?
I'm very proud that he does not allow it to hinder him, because you see so many people that I see on a day-to-day basis, and they allow the bleeding disorder to hinder them. It basically cripples them, and they're not able to work or do anything else. But he allows this to push. He pushes past whatever the situation is, the circumstance, and it does, make him stronger. It makes him have a different outlook on life, and we talk about that a lot. We actually talked about this the other day, how it actually has made him have a different outlook on life and the way he's able to handle situations. So I'm very proud.
As you both look ahead, as as a family who has so many experiences with bleeding disorders, what do you hope for the community, as you look to the next maybe decade?
It's a good question. I actually hope that they find a cure for hemophilia. I know a lot of times people say that we don't want them to find a cure, but I actually hope that they find a cure. Like my son, he always says that if they find a cure for hemophilia, then I won't have to take this medicine anymore. I do. I hope that they find additional resources for people with bleeding disorders that would make different races want to be involved in, whether it's a study, whether it's get involved with other educational events, so that they can know that there are other resources out there and that they won't feel like they're by themselves. Because a lot of times you're going through, whether it's a bleed or some hard situation in your life, and you're feeling like you're going through this by yourself. But if you would just open up to talk to someone, you would know that you're not going through this by yourself. You're not alone. So I just hope that they would find additional resources, additional medication, better medication, better doctor's offices, even that, better hematologists in different areas. Because a lot of times you don't have hematologist in the area that you're living in. You have to drive further to get to that hematologist. So more doctors, more educated doctors that are willing to deal with patients that have hemophilia and other comorbidities.
Sean, what would a cure or something similar, what would that mean to you?
I don't have to infuse anymore. That is what that means to me. And actually, it would. I kind of now that's a part of me. So it's kind of like I don't want it to go away anymore. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I get tired of sticking myself. Even a cure would be fine, but I say another way to, I guess, administer the drug to yourself, whether it
Yes.
be, I guess, a different type of shot device. I don't. It's just a different way to do it. But I feel like that if a cure was here and it was available to those who needed it, or those who felt like that the disorder was hindering them in a way, I feel like it would be awesome.
HPC's Andrea Bridges and her son Aiden share their journey with hemophilia. Aiden was diagnosed at just a few days old, but she was determined for him to lead an active, normal life. Now at 16, he's done just that and credits his mom with helping him do that, including teaching him independence and responsibility. Andrea, as a mother, when your son was first diagnosed, was that pretty soon after birth? What was that experience like? Can you take us back to that time?
Sure. So Aiden was diagnosed when he was 3 days old. He had a lot of bleeding from his circumcision, and I have no family history of any bleeding disorders. So we didn't really know what was going on, and the doctors didn't really know. Then after a few days, they did a lot of testing, and they told us he had hemophilia, and I didn't even know how to spell it. What is that? Can you tell me, do I have to bubble wrap my child? Is he going to be okay? Is he going to be normal? Luckily, the hospital he was at also happened to be a hemophilia treatment center. So that was really a blessing.
So when that diagnosis happens and, you start to raise your child, do you have any advice looking back over, what you've learned the last 16 years, if a new parent, discovers this with their own child?
What I like to tell other moms and other families when I meet them and they have a newly diagnosed, sweet, precious baby in their arms, your baby is going to be fine. Your baby is going to be normal. You may read a lot of things that have happened in history, but treatment is very different now. Your baby's going to have a normal life.
Aiden, your mom said that she thought she might have to wrap you in bubble wrap. And I'm looking at you right now via video, and you're not wrapped in bubble wrap. Can you talk about just how it's shaped you, how you've grown, and how you've been able to, I guess, do a lot of things. And like your mom was talking about how treatment has changed and enabled patients to, live pretty normal lives.
I laugh at it now, but back earlier in the hemophilia community, it wasn't really a joke because that was the sad reality of it. But honestly, I live a pretty normal life because I take my factor, which I'm really grateful for in a way. I ride dirt bikes, play baseball, wrestle with my friends. I'm grateful for that we have the treatments that we do today. If something were to happen, you never know. It could be potentially bad, and I don't really want that. Yes, it has helped me mature a lot and better decision-making skills, And I do thank my mom for raising me the correct way with hemophilia and not making me scared of it, which I do appreciate because I know there's probably people out there that are afraid of hemophilia. And one piece of advice I would give them is don't let it control you. Because in my day-to-day life, I don't think about hemophilia. It's not even there. I just take my medication, go on about my day. I'm not driving in my car. Oh, I have hemophilia. Today sucks. No, that's not a thing.
And Andrea, how proud are you of the way he's approached it? And talking about he does some of these things that may be potentially more dangerous, but he still takes those precautions. So as a mom, how do you kind of navigate all that?
I'm extremely proud of the way Aiden has taken ownership of his hemophilia and his infusions. And I think maybe he has matured a little faster in certain aspects than maybe some of his peers. I know that when we've gone to the treatment center, I've always had him speak to his doctors instead of me speaking for him. And I've always encouraged him to go to camps and meetings just to meet others and to seek out education that he needs. I think because of all that, he has maybe a healthy fear of his hemophilia. He knows that there are risks with any activity he does, but there's risks for folks without hemophilia as well. I think Aiden realizes, because he has met others in the community that did not have access to care or access to medications, I think Aiden understands the importance of taking his medication and the importance of taking safety precautions when doing certain activities.
Aiden, have you met younger kids now who are, who have hemophilia, have been diagnosed, and have you been able to, I guess, share your learnings or teach them anything?
Whenever we go to camp, I feel like we're all just like there to have fun. We all so someone might do it a different way, and I could take something really cool out of that experience, like how they put the needle in their arm, or how do they mix it, or just like little tricks or something like that. You can learn a lot just going to camp, stuff you didn't even know.
And when you've met the different peers, do you guys all kind of have similar experiences as far as people having maybe misperceptions about hemophilia?
We were normal kids. We didn't really bring it up that much, except for when it was time to go to the med shed, we would shoot up, or not. That's not a good word. We would infuse, and then we would go back to having fun and beating each other up back in the cabin. Just gonna be honest, we were there to have fun. We lived basically a normal life, but we didn't really talk about it that much.
Hemophilia is part of Aiden's life, but it's not his entire life.
Yeah. I don't let hemophilia control me. I just it's just part of my schedule. That's all I look at it as. Like, hey, you wake up and drink your coffee. Hey, I wake up and take my medicine. That's all it is to me. It's just another thing in my routine.
Tila Folks, clinical educator for HPC, and her son Zach have a lot of life experiences when it comes to bleeding disorders. But they use those experiences to help others both personally and professionally, and talk about what inspires them and how they inspire others with good vibes for life. Tila, when did you first start working with HPC? It seems like such a natural fit and place for you, but how did you become acquainted?
Well, a really good friend of ours, Tim Andrews, came up to me one day at an event we went to with HPC, and he we talked about me being a nurse, and he's like, hey, can I talk to you later? So he called me up, we talked about HPC, and he said, I have a need for nurses with hemophilia experience. I know you've got the boys, so it seems like a natural fit. Seems like something that, would this be something you're interested in? And it was, at the time, I'd worked in the hospital the whole time, my whole career thus far. And it just had a lot of thinking to do about it. And then ultimately realized, hey, I can give back to other families, not just professionally, but on a personal level. And if I had had that when Zach was growing and was younger, then that would have been wonderful. I would have been very thankful for that. So that's how I came to realize, yes, this is the right thing to jump into. So, and it worked.
And I'm sure there have been so many patients over the years that have appreciated that you've been through it. And so, maybe not exactly what they're dealing with, but have very similar shared experiences.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've worked with a lot of new moms, and that has helped them to know. I worked with one, and we are also involved in the local community as well. So just as families, we became friends at our local events, even outside of work. And so our kids, look, my younger child, they got to know each other and be friends as well. So there's just so many layers to it, and also, but worked with a lot of new moms, and they really, appreciated everything that I did to help them. Would just hug my neck and just say, "Oh my gosh, if it wasn't for you, I don't know where we'd be, right now," which means a lot. So yeah, and I have worked with all ages, of course, but that's where I've kind of where I've shined, so to speak. So,
Zach, do you have much perspective on throughout your life, anything that you really noticed, like, oh, this is different, or this has really improved and helped with my quality of life?
One thing that I've noticed is like the difference in like the treatment centers and how those have grown and sort of changed, and especially going from as a kid going into that one, and then as an adult care, and the difference in like how they treat you, everything that you're exposed to with the doctors, having to do it on your own. I would say that it's sort of gotten to where it's a lot easier now for me to do it rather than how it used to be. Well, of course, I had my mom helping me, but not everybody has that, and I know it can be hard. So seeing that evolve and change and get better for me, I know that's one thing that I've noticed.
Do you foresee any intersections with working, with those with bleeding disorders in your future plans?
I feel like it could be possible because I know with what I've done with like physical activity and how I've seen, because I've had like a really bad elbow issue and had to have surgery. That's where I had all my bleeds growing up, so it was really bad on that, and I have like severe arthritis in it now. And I know being so active and keeping like the muscles built up around the joints has actually helped, like more than anything. I think keeping my bleeds low, rarely having those. My elbow's gotten a lot better just from keeping it so mobile and active. And I think maybe if some sort of program or something needs help, I could definitely see myself doing that in the future.
And I think definitely sharing your story where you are today can definitely be an inspiration. And Tila, your role, I know you've had several roles with HPC, clinical educator. Is there a common question, as an educator, that you always find is that's something everybody, asks me, or even a couple kind of themes that you hear that might help listeners?
I would say younger kids. So the younger families, they'll say, what is my child going to be able to do?
Right.
Physical activity wise. That's always something. You may have, you have dads out there that want their son to play football, right off the bat. And then they learn, oh, we may not be able to do anything. And they're like, what are they going to be able to do? What do we need to do around our house to protect them? Of course, we always refer to their physician, their hemophilia treatment center. And, but I just remind them, always give them the big no-nos. Football is the biggest. Hockey, if they live anywhere near a hockey team or, area. But that I always remind them that they don't have to put their child in a bubble. There are going to be activities that are recommended, some that are not, some that are possible, but may be a little iffy, but don't put them in a bubble. They can live a life with hemophilia. And then, of course, learning, when can we learn to infuse our child so that we can have some independence? We don't have to worry about, wanting to have a nurse in our pocket at vacation,
Right.
sort of thing. And, I just reminded them and all of our nurses at HPC, do this is we want our patients to be as independent as possible, as soon as possible, because that will give them a, large feeling of accomplishment and freedom. That always remind them that is possible, and we'll get them there.
Well, thank you so much, Tila Folks and her son, Zach, for joining us today on Let's Wrap.
You've been listening to HPC's Let's Wrap, a podcast by HPC Specialty Infusion for patients and providers. We're proud to specialize in patient health and happiness at hpcspecialtypharmacy.com or call 1-800-757-9192.